Asking stupid questions. There's always that moment in a meeting when everyone pretends they know the leverage synergies your boss is talking about, and you're the only one brave enough to ask the obvious question. That's the moment when the room pauses, and everyone relaxes. Asking stupid questions forces ideas back to their foundations. It exposes assumptions before they harden into plans, timelines, and very expensive mistakes. Groups fail far more often from misunderstood basics than from complex details, and the person willing to interrupt momentum is usually the one preventing future chaos. One clarification now can spare hours of rework later. On a personal level, this habit accelerates learning. Curiosity beats embarrassment every time. People who ask foundational questions close gaps faster because they don't build knowledge on guesswork. Sure, timing matters, and questions that ignore available resources can frustrate others, but used well, stupid questions are rarely stupid. They're quality control for thinking. Spoken before mistakes get the chance to multiply. Making weird noises in private. You're alone scrolling on your phone. Suddenly, you start loudly singing Golden, even though you can't hit the notes, and somehow, afterward, you feel better. That's not accidental. Making loud, weird noises in private is one of the fastest ways the body dumps tension. Vocalizing moves stress out of your head and into your chest, throat, and breath. It gives bottled up energy somewhere to go instead of letting it rattle around internally. Think of it as cracking a pressure valve before something starts leaking. There's real physiology behind it too. Deep sounds, humming, singing, even controlled yelling, stimulate the vagus nerve, which nudges the nervous system toward calm. Heart rate slows. Muscles unclench. The body gets the message that the danger, real or imagined, has passed. Sure, walls are thin and roommates deserve peace. But when you're alone, those strange noises are the nervous system doing maintenance. A quick reset performed loudly, imperfectly, and surprisingly well. Taking long showers. At some point, your shower stops being about getting clean and turns into a one-person retreat. You're standing there, water running, solving life problems you didn't even know were queued up. Some showers also help you forget if you're crying or not. Long showers put your brain into a rare state where it finally stops being yanked around by tasks. The warmth relaxes your body, the repetition keeps your hands busy, and your mind slips into creative autopilot. Neuroscientists call this default mode network activity, the same mental state linked to daydreaming, insight, and sudden aha moments. That's why so many breakthroughs happen while staring at tile grout. There's chemistry involved too. Warm water lowers stress hormones and nudges dopamine upward, which makes ideas feel more playful and less intimidating. For people juggling constant decisions all day, the shower becomes a socially acceptable place to disappear and reboot. Yes, the water bill notices, but mentally, those long showers are doing real work. Sometimes the best thinking happens when you're supposedly doing nothing at all. Rewatching the same show. You just finished watching a marathon of Harry Potter movies. You stare at the credits for a second, and then go right back to the first movie, to relive the thrill for the 6th time, and somehow, it's still just as amazing. Rewatching a beloved show or rereading a favorite book is emotional efficiency. Your brain already knows the plot, so it relaxes. No suspense spikes or cognitive scrambling, just a familiar emotional landscape where nothing bad surprises you. Psychologists link this to comfort and mood regulation. Nostalgic stories act like a mental weighted blanket. There's a cognitive bonus too. When you're no longer chasing what happens next, your attention shifts to how it happens. You notice patterns, character motivations, foreshadowing, tiny details the first pass bulldozed right over. That's metacognition in action. Thinking about thinking, learning how stories are built. Sure, living only in familiar stories can limit exploration, but returning to a known narrative can help strengthen memories and build cognitive depth. Sometimes the richest discoveries come from places you already know by heart. Talking to pets or objects. You tell your dog you'll be right back like they understand calendars and time. You thank the car out loud when it starts on the first try. None of this feels strange in the moment, and that's because your brain is doing what it's best at, practicing social connection. Talking to pets or objects, also called anthropomorphism, activates the same mental systems you use to understand people. You're assigning intentions, moods, and reactions, which exercises empathy and perspective taking. That skill, figuring out what someone else might be feeling or thinking, gets stronger with use, even when the someone is a cat who doesn't pay rent. There's emotional value too. Pets, especially, become safe listeners. You can vent, joke, or narrate your day without worrying about judgment or misinterpretation. That low-risk outlet helps regulate emotion and reduces loneliness, which is why people who anthropomorphize their pets often report feeling more supported. As long as reality stays intact, your dog doesn't need an iPhone. This habit isn't silly. It's the human brain staying social, even when humans aren't around. Eating spicy food. You sit down to eat, take one bite, and immediately regret every life choice that led you here. Your eyes water, your nose runs, but oddly, you keep eating. This is the pain and pleasure of eating spicy food. Capsaicin doesn't burn you. It convinces your nervous system that you're on fire. Pain receptors light up. Your body panics for a split second, and your brain responds by dumping endorphins and dopamine into the system. The same chemicals behind a runner's high show up to calm the chaos. That's why the pain flips into pleasure, and why people chase heat instead of avoiding it. There's a practical upside too. That endorphin surge can blunt other discomforts, which helps explain why people who love spicy food often report lower sensitivity to everyday aches. The intensity also snaps you out of mental fog. A spicy meal raises heart rate, wakes up the senses, and drags your attention fully into the present moment. Of course, pushing it too far can upset your stomach and ruin your afternoon plans, but in moderation, spicy food turns pain into a controlled thrill, a fast, edible way to wake up your brain and boost your mood. Wearing the same outfit daily. At some point, opening your closet stops feeling like self-expression and starts feeling like a low-stakes exam you didn't study for. Shirt A or shirt B, casual or casual but trying. Multiply that by every morning and suddenly you're already tired. That's why wearing the same outfit every day quietly works. It deletes a decision that never deserved your brain power in the first place. When the uniform is set, your mind skips the outfit spiral and moves straight to things that actually matter. Psychologists call this decision fatigue reduction. Everyone else calls it feeling less brain drain by noon. There's an emotional bonus too. A fixed outfit removes the second-guessing loop. No mere negotiations, no regret halfway through the day. You just get dressed and go. That mental calm adds up, especially when bigger choices are waiting later. Sure, uniforms aren't about fashion or making a bold statement. They're about clarity. When your clothes stop demanding attention, your thinking finally gets it. Favoring voice notes. You've been trying to write the perfect text for the past hour, triple-checking every word, so instead, you hit record and just talk. That preference makes sense. Voice notes carry tone, pacing, emphasis. The emotional metadata a text message will lose. A pause can soften a message. A laugh can signal warmth. Urgency sounds urgent without needing 5 exclamation points. Hearing someone's voice activates social connection in a way typed words rarely manage, which is why voice notes often feel more personal even when they're casual. They're also efficient. Complex ideas spill out naturally when spoken, without the mental gymnastics of turning thoughts into perfectly edited sentences. Voice notes land in a sweet spot, richer than text, less demanding than a phone call, and far less anxiety-inducing than ringing someone out of the blue. Of course, voice notes demand attention. They can't be skimmed in a meeting or searched later, but in the right context, they trade convenience for clarity, and connection usually wins that deal. Sniffing books or old clothes. You open an old book and, without really planning to, bring it a little closer to your face. Smell has a direct hotline to memory and emotion. Unlike sights or sounds, it skips the brain's usual processing cues and goes straight to the amygdala and hippocampus, the regions controlling emotions and memory. That's why one sniff can unlock scenes you haven't thought about in years. Mood, details, and emotion all arrive at once. This makes scent one of the fastest self-soothing tools humans have. Familiar smells lower stress, stabilize emotions, and create a sense of safety almost instantly. That's why people instinctively sniff old clothes, books, or blankets during moments of overwhelm. The brain recognizes the scent and quietly says, "We've survived before." There's a cognitive side too. Because smell accesses memory so efficiently, it can sharpen recall and emotional clarity faster than other senses. One inhale can retrieve entire chapters of experience. Of course, not every scent is friendly. Some memories bite back, but when the association is warm, sniffing something familiar is neurological time travel with a comfort setting. Fidgeting. Your foot starts bouncing during a meeting. Somewhere nearby, someone silently judges you. But that constant motion isn't your brain misbehaving. It's actually your brain working. Fidgeting is a built-in self-regulation tool. Small, repetitive movements give the nervous system just enough stimulation to stay anchored in the present moment. Without it, the mind often wanders inward, into boredom, intrusive thoughts, or mental static. The movement acts like a stabilizer, keeping attention from drifting off the runway. That's why many people fidget more when they're trying to concentrate, not when they're relaxed. There's also an energy release component. Stress, excitement, or cognitive overload builds pressure, and fidgeting quietly vents it. Instead of bottling that tension, the body leaks it out in harmless micro-motions. Think of it as shaking excess charge off a wire so the signal stays clean. Of course, when these habits become compulsive or harmful, support matters, but everyday fidgeting shows regulation in motion, your nervous system fine-tuning itself in real time. Overusing emojis and exclamation marks. You just sent a text to your crush and noticed you ended every sentence with an exclamation mark. This is more than embarrassing. It's a little too much excitement and starting to edge into creepiness. But don't fret. That instinct to sound excited is doing real social work. Emojis and exclamation points act as tone translators in a medium that strip tone away. Without facial expressions or voice, the brain fills in gaps, often incorrectly. A smiley face or an extra exclamation mark steps in to say, "I promise I'm not a creep." There's also a connection boost. People subconsciously mirror emoji styles, and that matching makes interactions feel warmer and more cooperative. Texts with emotional cues land faster, feel clearer, and create a sense of responsiveness that plain text struggles to achieve. Of course, emojis can feel unprofessional, and too many can look chaotic in the wrong context. But in everyday communication, overusing emojis and exclamation points usually signals effort, friendliness, and emotional clarity. Think of it as digital body language, hands waving enthusiastically because the face isn't there to do it for you. Eating the same meal every day. At some point, you realize lunch has become a recurring character in your life. You use the same plate, same utensils, and eat the same baked chicken, broccoli, and pasta. Same quiet confidence that this meal will not surprise you emotionally or nutritionally. That sounds kind of nice. Eating the same meal every day clears mental clutter. Food decisions sneakily drain energy. What to eat, how healthy it is, whether it fits your caloric goals. When the answer is already decided, your brain gets to clock out early. That consistency makes it easier to hit nutrient targets without negotiating with yourself 3 times a day. For people juggling work, health goals, or decision-heavy lives, repetition becomes a form of relief. There's also a compliance advantage. Habits stick when they're boring. A familiar meal removes friction, which is why athletes, busy professionals, and anyone trying to stabilize their routines lean into sameness. Once nutrition stops being a daily puzzle, it becomes background support for everything else. The catch is variety. Bodies thrive on diversity, especially at the micronutrient level. Eating the same thing forever can quietly shortchange gut health and essential macronutrients if rotation never happens. Still, when done thoughtfully, repeating meals turns food into fuel instead of a daily debate. Sometimes simplicity is the healthiest ingredient. Rehearsing arguments in the shower. 1 minute you're washing off your sweat, the next you're delivering a flawless speech to your shampoo. Welcome to the shower debate arena. Rehearsing arguments in your head is the brain-running scenario planning on autopilot. With no distractions, your mind simulates difficult conversations the way a flight simulator trains pilots. Safely, privately, and with zero real-world fallout. You test wording, emotional reactions, timing, and outcomes before anything actually happens. That rehearsal sharpens judgment and reduces snap decisions when stakes are real. There's also a performance benefit. Mentally practicing language and emotional regulation primes the brain to stay composed later. When the real conversation happens, your nervous system recognizes the terrain, so you'll have fewer surprises and better delivery. The line gets crossed when rehearsal turns into endless replay. But in its healthy form, arguing in the shower is cognitive armor, quietly forged before you ever step into the room. Excessive note-taking. Your brain feels like a browser with 47 tabs open. 8 are playing music, and 2 are probably crashed. So you grab 12 sticky notes instead. That habit of writing everything down gets labeled obsessive. But cognitively, it's brilliant. Excessive note-taking is the brain outsourcing memory like a smart manager. Instead of forcing your working memory to juggle tasks, reminders, and half-formed ideas, you park them somewhere safe. That frees mental bandwidth for actually doing things. Psychologists call this cognitive offloading. Regular people call it finally breathing again. There's more. Writing, especially by hand, forces your thoughts to slow down and line up. You can't dump chaos onto paper without organizing it a little first. That structure reduces stress, quiets intrusive thoughts, and improves focus. Studies even show handwritten notes lead to deeper understanding and better long-term recall than typing, because your brain has to process and translate ideas, not just copy them. Yes, lists can become a trap if perfection replaces action, but used well, Excessive notes can help your brain build external RAM so your brain can run smoother. Always early. If you're always the first to a party, wondering why no one else understands how time works. Or if you arrive 10 minutes before your dental appointment, even though that teeth drilling noise gives you nightmares. Welcome to the world of hyperpunctuality. This habit buys you peace of mind. Hyperpunctual people build time buffers the way engineers build safety margins. Traffic happens, elevators stall, and life throws small wrenches. But arriving early means those surprises land softly instead of triggering a cortisol spike and a panicked apology. Your brain stays steady, while everyone else is sprinting in hot and flustered. There's a trust dividend too. Showing up early and consistently sends a quiet signal that you're dependable, prepared, and respectful. People remember that. Over time, it shapes how much responsibility you're given and how seriously your words are taken, often without you ever saying a thing. Of course, taken too far, punctuality can slide into anxiety-driven rigidity, but in its healthy form, being early brings peace of mind with a little extra time and calm.
Procrastination. You sit down to work, but suddenly deep cleaning your fridge feels urgent. Classic procrastination. But sometimes that delay is part of the process. Psychologists call it productive procrastination. While you're busy doing side quests, your brain's still thinking about the work you should be doing in the background, stitching ideas together like a slow cooker letting flavors blend. When the deadline looms, that pressure acts like the timer. Everything bubbles up at once. Research shows people who delay just enough often end up with fresher, more creative ideas than those who dive in immediately. It's like giving your thoughts extra marinating time before serving. But there's a line. Chronic procrastination where deadlines are missed is just sabotage. The key is balance. So if you ever find yourself dusting blinds before working on a big project, don't worry. You might just be seasoning your genius. Forgetfulness. You can solve a tricky problem at work, but then forget where you put your phone 5 minutes later. Super annoying. But research shows a little forgetfulness can actually be smart. The brain sometimes clears out trivial stuff to free space for bigger ideas. Think of it like a hard drive. Mundane files like where you left your keys or directions to that one restaurant get deleted so the system can save larger files, like creative thinking or problem solving. Even neuroscience backs this up. Forgetting helps the brain focus on important patterns instead of drowning in useless details. History is full of examples. Isaac Newton was so deep in thought he skipped meals, and economist Adam Smith wandered into his garden half-dressed, lost in ideas. But chronic forgetfulness can also be stress, not genius. Keep notes and set reminders. That way, your brain stays free for the big stuff, without losing your wallet. Disliking small talk. You're at a party, stuck in a loop of weather updates and weekend plans. Meanwhile, your brain is quietly begging for something deeper. If small talk drains you, research suggests it may be a sign of an analytical mind. Psychologists have found that people who dislike chit-chat often score high in intrapersonal intelligence, the ability to reflect deeply and value authenticity. They crave real substance, not another round of traffic complaints. For introverts especially, surface-level banter feels like background noise their brain doesn't need. Think of it like running high-performance software. You'd rather process meaningful data than waste energy on filler files. That's why some of the brightest people light up in conversations about science, art, or personal passions, but glaze over at weather reports. Of course, chronic avoidance of small talk can look aloof, but next time you're accused of avoiding chit-chats, that may be your genius mind begging for something more meaningful. Couch potato. You're sprawled on the couch binge reading for hours, and someone accuses you of being lazy. But research says otherwise. In one study, people who loved deep thinking were less physically active because their minds kept them engaged enough without needing constant motion. On the outside, it looks like nothing is going on. No thoughts and no movement. But on the inside, your brain is quietly buzzing away. For deep thinkers, their brain is using up energy and burning calories as though the body were actually exercising. Charles Darwin was famous for this. He could spend hours motionless, staring at plants or worms, yet his observations reshaped biology. The stillness was deceptive. His mind was actually racing. While exercise still matters, lounging on the couch doesn't always mean laziness. Sometimes it's just the brain getting its reps in. Bored of routine. You're 10 minutes into folding socks and suddenly questioning the meaning of life. If routine tasks make you feel trapped in a bad sequel, your brain might just be too revved up for monotony. Psychologists note that highly intelligent people get restless with repetitive stuff. Imagine a Formula One car forced to circle the grocery store parking lot. Technically, it's driving, but it was built for bigger and better tracks. That's how smart minds feel when stuck in routine. They want speed, novelty, new terrain. History even backs this up. Philo Farnsworth, who invented television as a teenager, admitted the idea hit him because he was bored with farm work. When brains like his get itchy, they invent new ways to entertain the world. Of course, not every task can be thrilling, but if you change your hobbies like you change your underwear, don't stress. You're not flaky. You're just wired for adventure mode. Talking to pets or objects. You walk in the door and greet your dog like they've been paying rent. Or maybe you've talked to your old car driving up a hill. You got this, bro. If that's you, you're probably smarter than average. Psychologists call this anthropomorphizing, giving human traits to non-humans. While this seems silly, it's far from it. Anthropomorphizing has been linked to social intelligence. Your brain's social software is so strong, it can't help but extend empathy to pets, plants, and even your 20-year-old Toyota Corolla. It's the same instinct kids use when hosting tea parties for stuffed animals, and adults who keep doing it are just showing advanced imagination at work. Einstein himself reportedly chatted with his parrot, and NASA scientists name every Mars rover rock they study. Why? Naming and talking to things makes them feel familiar, helps memory, and even relieves stress. So next time you have a pep talk with your old car, don't feel weird. You're just exercising social genius. Unusual humor. Ever drop a joke that makes half the room laugh and the other half look like you just confessed a crime? That might be a sign of intelligence. Humor, especially quirky or dark humor, is brain-intensive. You have to spot the mismatch, connect ideas quickly, and sometimes juggle multiple layers of meaning. A study found that people who appreciated morbid cartoons scored higher on IQ tests and handled the content with more emotional control. In other words, they could turn "oh no" into laughs without flinching. Dark humor, puns, nerdy references, they all demand fast associative thinking. Comedians often do this instinctively. Their quick pivots between serious and absurd reflect the same fast associative thinking researchers link to high creativity. So if your punchlines sometimes bomb, don't sweat it. You might just be playing 4D chess while everyone else is stuck on checkers. Obsessive curiosity. Your friend texts you, "What are you up to?" And you're actually halfway through a 6-hour documentary on the history of pencils. That hyper-focus isn't random. It's one of the strongest signs of an intelligent mind. Bright people don't just skim topics. They zoom in until they know everything. Psychologists call it a rage to master. Leonardo da Vinci studied anatomy by dissecting cadavers. Tolkien built entire languages for fun. Today, it might be your friend who can recite every Star Wars trivia fact or catalog bird calls like Pokemon. And while it looks useless, these obsessions actually pay off. Random trivia often cross-pollinates into new ideas. That fact you learned pencil history could lead to tomorrow's genius new business strategy. So yeah, binge researching obscure random topics at 2 a.m. might sound quirky. But in reality, you're sharpening your mental Swiss Army knife, one oddly specific blade at a time. Messy environment. Your desk looks like a crime scene. 3 coffee mugs, a stack of papers teetering like Jenga, and at least one mystery cable you're afraid to unplug. To most people, that's chaos. To science, it might be creativity in disguise. A study found that people working in messy rooms came up with more original ideas than those in tidy ones. Researchers summed it up. Disorder encourages breaking free of tradition, while neatness pushes safe choices. Translation? That pile of laundry might be fueling your next breakthrough. Einstein's desk was famously a disaster zone. He joked, "If a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, of what then is an empty desk a sign?" Thomas Edison's lab was basically wall-to-wall junk, but out of that junk came light bulbs. Literally. So next time someone calls your room a pigsty, just tell them, it's not a mess. It's a prototype for genius. Talking to yourself. You're pacing in your kitchen muttering, groceries, laundry, world domination, and suddenly realize you've been giving a speech to the fridge. Don't worry, this is just your brain running a very efficient system. Psychologists call it self-directed speech. Saying things out loud helps organize thoughts, focus attention, and strengthen memory. In one study, people hunting for objects found them faster when they repeated the name, which means muttering keys, 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 while turning your room upside down is the best way to find them. Plenty of great minds used it too. Charles Dickens read his drafts aloud to fine-tune rhythm and catch mistakes. And Salvador Dalí, the Spanish surrealist painter known for melting clocks, used self-talk to stir up wild new ideas for his art. So if you're caught having a full-blown TED talk to your furniture, relax. It's just your brain thinking out loud at full power. Swearing frequently. You stub your toe and unleash a string of words that would make a sailor blush. People might think you're crude, but science says it might actually be clever. Psychologists ran a study where participants had to rattle off as many curse words as they could. Turns out, those who were most fluent in swearing also scored higher in overall verbal intelligence. Turns out, swearing isn't lazy speech. It's linguistic agility with extra spice. Think about it. A wide vocabulary isn't just therefore and heretofore. It also includes knowing exactly when to drop an F-bomb for maximum impact. Writers like Mark Twain used profanity for sharp wit, and even Stephen Hawking was known to slip in mild curses to land a joke. It's language as both the scalpel and the sledgehammer. So if your friends tease you for swearing too much, just tell them you're not rude. You're multilingual in emotions. Self-criticism. You finish a project, everyone's clapping, and your brain goes, "Cool, but here's a list of 37 things I did wrong." Sound familiar? That nagging voice is a hallmark of a sharp mind. Scientists say highly intelligent people are often their own harshest critics. Why? The smarter you are, the more flaws you can actually see. It's like having 4K resolution on your mistakes. Every pixel of imperfection pops out. This hyper-awareness sometimes even leads to imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud despite clear success. History is full of geniuses side-eyeing themselves. Marie Curie, who literally won 2 Nobel Prizes, still downplayed her achievements. When Nobel winners say, "That was fine," you know perfectionism runs deep. Sure, constant self-criticism can sting, but it's also fuel to prevent making the same mistake twice. If you're your own worst critic, it means your brain's quality control team is working overtime. Just remember to give them a coffee break once in a while. Staying up late. It's 3 a.m. The world is asleep, and you're wide awake, convinced you can solve the mysteries of the universe. If that's you, don't worry. It might be less bad habit and more big brain mode. Researchers have found that people with higher IQs are more likely to keep late hours. Evolutionarily, humans used to rise with the sun. So deliberately flipping that script, staying up long after dark, is considered an evolutionary novel behavior. Smarter brains tend to adopt these new patterns more easily. And it's not just theory. A study found that night owls scored higher on creativity and cognition activities. History backs it too. Winston Churchill ran war meetings at 2 a.m., and Nikola Tesla was infamous for midnight experiments. Apparently, genius keeps vampire hours. Of course, mornings still exist. Society will judge you at the 9 a.m. meeting. But if your best ideas show up when the clock strikes midnight, you're in good company. Doodling. You're in a meeting, nodding along, while your notebook slowly fills with cubes and spirals. People assume you're zoning out. In reality, you might be the most focused person in the room. Research shows doodling can actually boost memory and concentration. The simple act of scribbling shapes uses just enough brain power to keep you anchored, stopping your mind from drifting into full nap mode. Think of it as mental fidgeting. Your pen is pacing for your brain. History backs this up. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks were jam-packed with sketches of machines, anatomy, and random scribbles. Steve Jobs was known to sketch product ideas. Even modern engineers use sketchnoting, combining doodles and words, to brainstorm. Messy margins often mean busy minds. So next time someone catches you drawing galaxies instead of bullet points, just say you're not bored. You're brainstorming, one squiggle at a time.
Brushing your teeth too hard. A shocking number of adults brush their teeth like they're scrubbing kitchen tiles. Somewhere growing up, we absorbed the same lie. Brushing harder equals cleaner teeth. But it actually just means louder brushing, a better arm workout, and future teeth regrets. Your teeth are covered in enamel, which is the hardest substance in your body, but it can still be damaged. When you brush too hard, you slowly grind that enamel down over the years. As it thins, the softer layers underneath your enamel start reacting to cold water, hot coffee, and anything remotely sweet. Meanwhile, your soft and delicate gums get pushed backward. That's called receding gums, and they never grow back once it happens. Dentists call this damage toothbrush abrasion. Things get even worse if you brush right after acidic foods. Acid softens enamel, so brushing immediately is like scrubbing your kitchen with bleach. Dentists recommend waiting about 30 minutes. The trick to having healthy teeth that last forever is to use soft bristles and gentle pressure. Think of brushing your teeth like a face massage instead of sanding your pearly whites. Multitasking everything. Somehow, Multitasking got rebranded as a superpower and not a warning label. If you felt proud about cooking while texting, only to burn your dinner and text your grandma something embarrassing. Here's the tough truth. Your brain can't actually do multiple complex things at once. What it does instead is bounce rapidly between different tasks. Cutting vegetables, texting, heating up the oven, avoiding emails about late payments. The constant switching burns time, energy, and accuracy. Psychologists call this task switching, and it can slow you down by up to 40% because refocusing takes work. Brain scans show multitaskers use more mental effort to get less done. Stress hormones, like cortisol, spike, your attention gets worse over time, and your brain becomes jumpier even when you're trying to focus on just one thing. The drop in IQ is even similar to losing one night's sleep when you're multitasking. That's the cruel part. Multitasking feels like efficiency while quietly sabotaging your attention. The fix is boring but effective. Monotasking. Focus on one task with full attention within a time block. Finish the item, then move on. You'll work faster, make fewer mistakes, and feel less fried. Drinking diet soda for weight loss. It can feel like you've hacked the problem of gaining weight by drinking something sweet with no calories or sugar. But don't be fooled by the marketing of diet drinks. When you drink something sweet, your brain assumes calories are coming. But when that sweetness shows up without the energy, your body gets confused. The mismatch can crank up cravings and hunger later, because your body starts looking elsewhere for the energy it was promised. Some people end up eating more overall, mentally spending the calories they think they saved with the drink. Studies have even found that people who switch to diet soda sometimes consume more total calories than those who drank regular soda. Artificial sweeteners can also mess with insulin and gut bacteria, both of which play big roles in weight regulation. And while the research is still evolving, large population studies consistently link high diet soda intake with weight gain, metabolic issues, and increased diabetes risk. Not exactly the solutions diet soda promised. Next time when you're craving diet soda, try sparkling water or unsweetened tea. Add citrus, herbs, or a splash of real juice if you need flavor. Treat diet soda like a dessert and not a strategy. Remember, 0 calories doesn't always mean 0 consequences. Overloading on vitamins and supplements. It's easy to think vitamins are a free upgrade. They're sold next to protein bars and electrolyte packs. They don't require prescriptions, and the labels make it sound like more pills equal more health. So people stack multivitamins, gummies, fortified drinks, and extra capsules thinking this is the answer to healthy living. The problem is that nutrients don't work like bonus points. Your body needs them within a narrow range. Too little causes problems, but too much can cause different, sometimes worse ones. Some vitamins dissolve in water, and excess gets flushed out in your pee, while others stick around. Fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, and E accumulate in your body, especially in the liver and fat tissue. Taken in high doses over time, they can quietly build up to toxic levels. That's how excess vitamin A damages the liver and bones. Too much vitamin D drives calcium into places it doesn't belong, and high-dose vitamin B6 can slowly injure nerves. Minerals follow the same rule. Iron, calcium, copper are essential in the right amount and harmful in excess. Taking them without a real need can strain the liver, kidneys, heart, or throw other nutrients out of balance. This happens more often than people realize, because fortified foods plus supplements can easily push intake well beyond daily recommended doses. A better approach is simpler. Use supplements only when there's a reason, confirmed deficiency, medical guidance, or a specific need. Get most nutrients from food, where doses are naturally balanced. And remember, supplements aren't harmless just because they're sold over the counter. Overusing antibacterial soap and hand sanitizer. It's easy to slip into the mindset that cleaner always means safer. If germs are bad, then nuking every surface and sanitizing your hands every 5 minutes must be even better, especially after the pandemic trained us all to carry hand sanitizer like a security blanket. The issue is that your skin isn't meant to be sterile. Regular soap and water already do an excellent job of removing germs by lifting them off your skin and rinsing them away. Antibacterial soaps and constant sanitizer use don't add much protection in everyday life, but they do add extra damage. Harsh chemicals and alcohol strip away natural oils and beneficial microbes, leaving skin dry, cracked, and irritated. Those tiny cracks actually make it easier for pathogens to get in, not harder. Your skin also has its own microbiome, a community of good bacteria that help crowd out harmful ones and keep your skin barrier strong. When you repeatedly wipe everything out, you don't just remove the bad guys, you remove your own defenders. Over time, this can increase irritation, eczema, and even allow tougher, more resilient microbes to take over. That's one reason the FDA banned ingredients like triclosan from consumer soaps. They weren't better than plain soap and came with real risks. A healthier approach is moderation. Use plain soap and water for routine hand washing. Save sanitizer for situations where you don't have access to a sink or you're in a higher risk environment. Moisturize if you wash often. Clean your home normally, not like an operating room. Clean hands matter, but you don't need to napalm every microbe on your hands to stay healthy. Over-exercising without rest. It's easy to believe that the more you exercise, the more fit and healthier you'll be. Why take a rest or maintenance day when you could be reaching for a new PR? Pushing through soreness, fatigue, and bad sleep can feel like discipline, especially in a culture that glorifies no days off. The problem is that exercise works by stressing your body, not by magically making it stronger on its own. Every workout creates tiny injuries in your muscles, drains energy stores, and taxes your nervous system. Strength, endurance, and fitness only improve afterward, when your body has time to repair that damage. If you don't give it that time, you're just breaking things down faster than they can be rebuilt. When rest is missing, stress hormones like cortisol stay elevated. That can interfere with sleep, weaken your immune system, and leave you feeling wired but exhausted. Performance often starts going backwards. You feel slower, weaker, and sore all the time despite training more. Over time, this can turn into overtraining syndrome, with chronic fatigue, frequent injuries, mood changes, and in some cases, heart rhythm issues or hormonal disruptions. What works better is treating recovery as part of the plan. Build in rest days. Rotate hard workouts with easier ones. Get enough sleep. Eat enough to support your activity. These aren't signs of laziness. They're what allow your body to build strength and endurance. Skipping sleep. Sleep has somehow been framed as optional, something you do after finishing a Netflix series, answering emails, and when scrolling finally stops. A lot of people wear short sleep like a badge of honor, convinced that squeezing the night gives them more hours of productivity. In reality, cutting sleep short quietly sabotages almost everything your body is trying to do. Sleep isn't downtime, it's maintenance. When you don't get enough of it, your brain and body don't finish their nightly reset. Stress hormones stay high. Appetite hormones get scrambled. Repair work gets skipped. The result is foggier thinking, worse mood, slower reactions, and stronger cravings the next day. Over time, the damage stacks up. Chronic sleep deprivation is linked to weight gain, insulin resistance, high blood pressure, heart disease, weakened immunity, and cognitive decline. Your brain clears metabolic waste during deep sleep, including proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. Miss enough sleep consistently, and that cleanup never fully happens. Your immune system also suffers, which is why people who sleep less get sick more often and take longer to recover. The fix isn't extreme. It's boring and effective. Aim for 7 to 9 hours most nights. Keep a consistent sleep schedule. Protect your wind-down time like it matters, because it does. Sleep isn't stealing time from your life. It's the thing that makes the rest of it work. Cleaning your ears with Q-tips. Using a Q-tip in your ear feels productive. There's resistance, there's payoff, and afterward it feels cleaner, so it's easy to assume this is basic hygiene. For a lot of people, it's as automatic as brushing their teeth. The problem is that earwax isn't dirt, and your ears aren't meant to be cleaned from the inside. Earwax, or cerumen, is a protective substance. It traps dust and microbes, keeps the ear canal slightly acidic, and slowly moves outward on its own as you chew and talk. That migration is deliberate. It's the ear's self-cleaning system. When you insert a Q-tip, you usually don't remove wax. You push it deeper. Over time, that packs wax against the eardrum, leading to blockage, muffled hearing, pressure, and pain. On top of that, the ear canal skin is extremely delicate. Even gentle swabbing can cause tiny abrasions, which increases the risk of infection. In worse cases, a slip or sudden movement can perforate the eardrum, causing hearing loss, vertigo, or permanent damage. Ironically, frequent swabbing can make wax problems worse. Removing wax too aggressively signals the ear to produce more, creating a cycle of buildup and cleaning that never resolves. What works instead is much simpler. Clean only the outer ear, the part you can see. Let wax migrate out naturally. If wax truly builds up or affects hearing, softening drops or professional removal are far safer options. Your ears aren't dirty, they're self-maintaining, and Q-tips mostly just get in the way. Overusing mouthwash. Mouthwash feels like the final piece of armor of oral hygiene. You brush, you floss, then you swish something aggressively minty that makes your mouth tingle. And it feels like proof that everything is extra clean. The issue is that your mouth isn't supposed to be sterilized. It has its own ecosystem of bacteria, and not all of them are bad. Some of those bacteria help control odor, protect your teeth, and even support things like blood vessel function. Strong antiseptic mouthwashes don't discriminate. They wipe out problem bacteria and the helpful ones too, especially when used multiple times a day. That imbalance can backfire. Alcohol-based mouthwashes dry out your mouth, and less saliva means worse breath and higher cavity risk. On top of that, research suggests frequent use of antiseptic mouthwash may interfere with bacteria involved in nitric oxide production, a molecule that helps regulate blood pressure and insulin sensitivity. Large studies have found that people who use mouthwash twice or more daily have higher risks of elevated blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. Not exactly what you're aiming for when you're chasing fresh. Overuse can also irritate the lining of your mouth, cause burning or ulcers, and even undo some benefits of brushing if you rinse immediately afterward and wash away fluoride. What works better is restraint. Brush twice a day with fluoride toothpaste. Floss daily. If you use mouthwash, choose alcohol-free and use it occasionally or at a different time than brushing. Hydration and tongue cleaning help breath far more than constant antiseptic rinsing. No fat diets. For a long time, fat was treated like the villain of the grocery store. If a label said low fat or fat-free, it automatically felt healthier, even if it tasted like disappointment. So people cut out nuts, avocados, olive oil, egg yolks, anything with fat, thinking that less fat meant better health. The problem is that fat isn't optional. Your body needs it to function. Dietary fat helps you absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K, supports hormone production, keeps your cell membranes intact, and helps you feel full after meals. When fat disappears, something else usually takes its place, and it's often refined carbs or added sugar. That's how the low-fat craze quietly turned into a high-sugar era, with people overeating fat-free snacks and wondering why nothing improved. Research has made this pretty clear. Cutting total fat alone doesn't reduce heart disease or guarantee weight loss. What matters is which fats you eat. Diets that include healthy fats, like olive oil, nuts, fish, and avocados, are consistently linked to better heart health, improved cholesterol profiles, and better blood sugar control. Meanwhile, ultra-low-fat diets can leave people hungrier, low on key nutrients, and stuck in a cycle of snacking. A smarter approach is balance. Keep trans fats out and limit excessive saturated fat, but include healthy fats on purpose. Use real oil on salads. Eat nuts. Don't fear whole foods because of one macronutrient. Fat isn't the enemy. Cutting it blindly just pushes your diet in the wrong direction. Eating too fast. Eating quickly has become weirdly normal. Meals get squeezed between meetings, eaten over keyboards, or finished in the car before the next obligation. If the plate is empty in 5 minutes, it can feel efficient, like you've optimized yet another part of your day, but your body doesn't experience it that way. Digestion starts in the mouth, not the stomach. Chewing breaks food down and mixes it with saliva, which contains enzymes that help digestion begin smoothly. When food is barely chewed and swallowed in large chunks, the stomach has to work harder, often leading to bloating, gas, and discomfort. At the same time, your brain hasn't caught up yet. Fullness signals take roughly 20 minutes to register, so when you eat fast, it's easy to overshoot before your body has a chance to say that's enough. This is why faster eating is consistently linked to higher calorie intake, weight gain, and acid reflux. People who eat quickly tend to feel less satisfied and get hungry again sooner, even after eating the same amount of food. Distracted eating makes this worse. When your attention is on a screen instead of the meal, your brain doesn't fully register what you ate, which can lead to more snacking later. Slowing down changes the equation. Eating at a relaxed pace allows satiety hormones to rise properly, improves digestion, and increases enjoyment. Simple habits help. Sit down, minimize distractions, take smaller bites, chew more, and put utensils down between bites. Food isn't something to get through. When you slow down, your body finally gets a chance to catch up with your plate. Doomscrolling the news. Staying informed sounds like a responsible habit. Knowing what's happening in the world feels important, especially when headlines are constant and your phone makes them impossible to ignore. So scrolling becomes a reflex. One more article, one more update, just to keep up. The problem is that your brain isn't built for nonstop crisis input. Doomscrolling keeps your nervous system stuck in threat detection mode. Every alarming headline activates stress responses meant for immediate danger, even when the events are far away and completely out of your control. Over time, that constant activation raises anxiety, disrupts sleep, and leaves you feeling tense, helpless, or emotionally drained. Research backs this up. Heavy exposure to negative news is linked to higher stress hormones, worse mood, poorer sleep, and even physical symptoms like headaches, muscle tension, and stomach issues. People who consume large amounts of distressing news also report lower life satisfaction and greater feelings of dread. Add in late-night scrolling, and you're stacking emotional stress on top of blue light and mental stimulation. Perfect conditions for insomnia. The irony is that doomscrolling doesn't actually make you more prepared or effective. It often replaces real rest, movement, and connection with passive anxiety. A healthier approach is setting boundaries. Check the news deliberately, not constantly. Avoid it first thing in the morning and right before bed. Curate your feed. Replace endless scrolling with something grounding, movement, conversation, or quiet time. Sleeping with a partner. Some people fall asleep best when they can feel another heartbeat nearby, a shared mattress, a warm shoulder, a familiar presence. It's a common rhythm. Around 60 to 70% of partnered adults sleep beside their significant other most nights, and for some, it's also the only way to stop their partner from stealing all the blankets. Couples who co-sleep fall asleep faster, wake less often, and log longer sleep overall compared to those who sleep alone. They also spend more time in REM sleep, the brain's emotional reset stage, likely because having a trusted partner nearby tells the nervous system it can slow down. Skin-to-skin contact releases oxytocin, a calming hormone linked to bonding and less stress. Ironically, oxytocin also makes people overlook the fact that their partner just drooled on the pillow. This closeness even echoes an old evolutionary pattern. Two sleepers notice nighttime disturbances better than one, creating a natural shared night watch that boosts security and rest across the night. But comfort isn't guaranteed. Snoring, tossing, or conflicting schedules can break the spell, and lighter sleepers, often women, may be more affected. Some couples solve this with separate blankets or the occasional sleep divorce to protect rest when needed without hurting connection. Still, when it works, co-sleepers drift into deeper rest carried by the reassurance of someone they trust sleeping beside them. Night owl. You can spot a night owl by the way their energy rises as it gets later into the night. They make up about 1 in 5 people, especially teenagers, whose internal clocks naturally tilt later than adults. At night, their minds hit a rare stride. Creativity deepens as distractions fade, allowing ideas to connect more freely. Their focus sharpens too, giving them long, uninterrupted runs of concentration. The same trait that once helped ancestors keep nighttime watch now supports roles like emergency responders, security teams, and overnight tech work. They also adjust more easily to westward travel and night shifts, and many quietly build entire skill sets in those peaceful hours when the world isn't competing for their attention. But living in a morning-centric world has its costs. Social jet lag, the gap between when their body wants to sleep and when life requires them to wake, can strain mood, health, and performance. This makes early alarms feel like an Olympic event no one trained them for. Still, the late hours give them something rare, a private stretch of silence where ideas glow and ambitions sharpen. A night owl can build their own universe while everyone else dreams. Pet co-sleeper. Bedtime looks different when a dog or cat is part of the routine. An extra heartbeat in the room, a soft weight shifting across blankets. Roughly 56% of adults sleep with pets, with women and single individuals especially likely to keep a furry companion close. Sleeping near a pet subtly reshapes the environment of the night. Their presence can reduce anxiety. Touching or simply lying near a pet boosts oxytocin while lowering cortisol, easing the shift into rest. Studies with veterans show that dogs can interrupt nightmares, supporting steadier sleep for people who carry trauma. Cats, on the other hand, will interrupt your sleep for reasons they don't feel obligated to explain. Exposure to the diverse microbiome pets bring into a home may support immune resilience, and children who grow up sleeping near pets often develop fewer allergies. People living alone often describe the emotional lift of a warm pet nearby, and many wake in better moods simply because a dog's greeting or a cat's purr starts their morning on an affectionate note. Even so, sharing a bed with an animal isn't always serene. Pets don't always match human sleep rhythms, and their movements, grooming noises, or late-night wanderings can break up the night. Allergies can sometimes flare when a pet sleeps close, and people who react strongly to dander often rest better with animals outside the bedroom. For those who prefer to share a bed with their furry babies, a dog's slow breathing or a cat's low purr becomes its own kind of lullaby. Bedtime procrastinator. Here lies the midnight scrollers and the one more episode watchers. These sleep delayers appear across all ages, but the habit is strongest in Gen Z, millennials, and overworked adults, with about half of Americans admitting they stay up late to finally feel in control of their time. When the day has been carved up by work, childcare, and obligations, the night becomes the only space that truly belongs to you. That freedom relieves stress, offers a sense of autonomy, and gives room for hobbies, gaming, reading, or chatting with distant friends without interruption. Many people even feel happier despite the looming fatigue, a psychological reward strong enough to outweigh the rational need for sleep. The quiet also nurtures creativity, letting minds wander, imagine, or focus without interruption, much like artists and writers working after everyone else has logged off. It's the same creative energy as 2 a.m. group chats, where everyone suddenly becomes a philosopher, but the next day delivers its bill. Less sleep means heavier fatigue, slower thinking, and a higher chance of burnout. Nearly half of adults sleeping 6 hours or less report intense exhaustion. For many, that sliver of borrowed midnight is a double-edged luxury, a tiny window where they finally feel like the main character in their own day, even if they have to pay for it the next day with extra coffee. Noise sleeper. In some bedrooms, the glow of a late-night show or the soft whir of a fan becomes the final light before sleep. Over half of adults use background sound at bedtime, from older viewers with TVs to younger adults scrolling themselves toward drowsiness. A steady backdrop masks sudden noises like traffic or barking dogs, which helps light sleepers stay asleep. The familiar voice of a show can also settle a racing mind. In fact, most people who watch TV before bed say they do it to forget the day's problems. Background audio creates a predictable environment that reduces anxiety, offers companionship for those who live alone, and turns bedtime into a comforting ritual. Even white noise machines improve sleep continuity, helping insomniacs move through the night without frequent wake-ups. In essence, TV and ambient sound act as modern self-soothing tools, softening the edges of stress so the mind can finally let go. Still, there's a trade-off. Engaging shows can keep you up later than planned, and leaving a TV running all night may fragment deep sleep with shifting brightness or volume. For those who need sound to unwind, a whisper of background sound is the perfect bedtime cheat code, a custom-made shortcut from a noisy day to a softer night. Lucid dreamer. A lucid dream begins when someone realizes the impossible is happening, text shifting on a page, gravity wobbling, and the mind snaps into awareness inside the dream. About half the population has experienced this at least once, and around 1 in 5 do so with some regularity. People who become aware mid-dream can redirect frightening scenarios, which is why clinicians use lucid dream training to help patients interrupt chronic nightmares. The dreaming brain can also rehearse movements and skills with surprising precision. Studies show athletes and musicians sometimes improve real-world performance after practicing inside lucid dreams. Some psychologists believe this blend of awareness and dreaming strengthens metacognition, sharpening the ability to observe one's own thoughts. Think of it as your brain briefly deciding to run a software update at 3 a.m. Others simply describe lucidity as joyful, a mental landscape where flying, reshaping worlds, or meeting loved ones who've passed offers a rare sense of possibility. But it's not all sunshine. Lucid dream induction can interrupt the natural sleep cycle, leaving people less refreshed the next day. Some experience sleep paralysis, brief moments when the brain wakes but the body remains still, especially if they attempt lucidity repeatedly. Yet, in a world that demands so much during the day, lucid dreamers get to explore entire worlds at night, no travel required. Deep sleeper. Roughly half of adults fall on the deeper end of the sleep spectrum, and for children and teens, they're often the ones who sleep the heaviest. These are the superhumans who could snooze through a fire alarm in their bedroom. Deep sleep gives the body and brain an unusually powerful reset. Long stretches of slow-wave sleep support tissue repair, immune strength, and the release of growth hormone, letting systems rebuild efficiently while the world turns quiet. The brain uses these deeper phases to consolidate memories and clear metabolic waste through the glymphatic system, which may help preserve long-term cognitive health. Because noises barely reach deep sleepers, their nights remain continuous, unhindered by the micro-awakenings that fragment lighter sleepers' rest. This stability helps heavy sleepers recover from physical exertion, adapt quickly to new environments, and wake feeling genuinely restored. Meanwhile, their alarm clocks throw their hands up and wonder why they're even set every night. That depth, however, comes with challenges. Waking from slow-wave sleep can be disorienting, and alarms often fail to cut through, leaving some deep sleepers groggy or late for early mornings. Their unresponsiveness can also become an issue during emergencies. For those gifted with it, deep sleep is a nightly descent into a hidden workshop where the body repairs, the mind resets, and the world fades far enough away for restoration to truly take hold. Light sleeper. About 51% of people identify as a light sleeper, and the trait becomes even more common with age, especially among women and those living under stress. Light sleepers can probably wake up if a dog barks in the next county. Though often dismissed as restless, light sleepers carry advantages rooted in deep survival. A brain that stays partly alert during the night can detect small changes in the environment, the same vigilance that once protected hunter-gatherer groups when predators or rival tribes approached. In modern homes, that sensitivity means they're the first to notice unusual noises, a crying child, or an early alarm. Frequent dips into lighter sleep stages also bring more dream recall, and some use those brief awakenings as moments of unexpected insight. Their mornings tend to start on time too, their brains already hovering near wakefulness, ready to rise without the drag of heavy sleep inertia. But less time in slow wave and REM sleep can leave the body under-recovered, raising risks for fatigue and long-term health issues tied to insufficient restorative sleep. Many rely on fans, earplugs, or meticulously quiet rooms just to protect the little deep sleep they manage. While the night may never feel fully sealed, that same alertness becomes a quiet form of guardianship. Nap lover. Though only about 7% of adults nap daily, surveys show more than 80% have taken a nap in the last few months, with children, older adults, and siesta cultures embracing the habit most naturally. Short daytime sleep gives these nappers something close to a cognitive reset. Even a 20 to 30 minute doze can sharpen attention, restore alertness, and smooth the post-lunch slump that others try to power through. Naps that last around a full sleep cycle can boost learning and memory by strengthening consolidation. Many older adults score higher on cognitive tests when they nap moderately, and brief daytime sleep can lower stress hormones and soothe cardiovascular strain. Naps are basically the closest adults get to a mandatory system reboot. With the right timing, nap lovers essentially create 2 mornings in one day, each with a fresh reservoir of energy. But waking from deep sleep can leave the mind fogged with sleep inertia, a brief period of sluggishness that occurs when the brain hasn't fully transitioned to wakefulness. Some people also lean on naps to compensate for inadequate nighttime rest, slipping into a cycle that fragments both night and day. A good nap slips into the middle of the day like a secret reboot, leaving everything afterward brighter than it was. Short sleeper. A short sleeper usually only needs 4 to 6 hours of rest before waking fully restored. Fewer than 1 to 3% of people fall into this rare category, many of them carrying genetic mutations like DEC2 or ADRB1 that reduce their sleep needs from birth. Their most striking strength is how efficiently they sleep. Short sleepers seem to compress essential stages: deep sleep for physical repair and REM for emotional processing, into a condensed window that leaves them waking clear-headed and ready to move. Because their sleep cycles reset so quickly, they rarely experience the drag of sleep debt. Meanwhile, the rest of us negotiate with our alarms, hoping to squeeze in a few extra minutes. Even after late nights or long flights, they tend to rebound faster than typical sleepers and often adapt to jet lag with minimal disruption. Many don't need catch-up weekends or naps at all. Their bodies simply take only what they need. Research suggests those short sleep genes may offer resilience against age-related decline or mood disorders, hinting that their unusually efficient sleep may protect the brain long-term. That rarity comes with quirks. Short sleepers often wake hours before anyone else, leaving them alone with time that's both freeing and isolating. And because their pattern is so misunderstood, people may assume they're anxious or sleep-deprived, though true short sleepers experience none of the fatigue or cognitive fog that define sleep loss. A life that naturally runs on fewer hours of rest gives these sleepers something precious, a little more time in every day, and the clarity to use it well. If you like this video and want to learn more about your weird habits, check out these other videos.